Hi guys, I want to do this video really quick. It's going to run down some of the traumas I've experienced since 2008 specifically, because I am afraid that something is going to happen to me. I get threats that I'm going to be arrested for something I haven't done. I'm committing no crimes. I'm living a perfectly legal life. But, I want to talk about this real quick in case something happens to me. If you're a targeted individual, you might be interested in hearing my story. It might bring back some memories for you. So here are some of the traumas that have happened to me within the last 5 years or so. Although it started in 2004 when I had surgery for cervical dysplasia under a general anesthetic. And I think something terrible happened to me because I have a flashback of it that started in 2010. The procedure, I believe, caused a condition known as vulvodynia, which involves a delayed onset of pain from trauma that results from trauma to the area. The pain started in 2008, even though the procedure was done in 2004, and I didn't have the flashback until 2010. In the flashback, I can see the doctor behind the mask. I can hear the sound of the instrument, and it sounds like, like a blender or a weed eater. I can see my mother holding me down. I can hear her voice talking to me. I can feel the pain intensely, and I can hear my own screams. All right, many of you know I discovered implants in each ear in 2008. They go through the cartilage and they are located right about here, and I have videos about these implants which show them better than photos can. And that was not long before I started to have the pain. Also in that same year, 2008, I began to hear voices. Now, I used to think, or part of me thinks, that the implants might have been put in when I was adopted, since the adoption certificate shows that my parents got custody 6 weeks after I was born, but I'm not sure. And given what I've been going through, I have to wonder if the implants were put in during that procedure in 2004. So in 2008, I discovered the implants, and in 2008, I began to hear voices. And my boyfriend, father of our daughter, tried to have me locked up twice, which cost me my job. And I had loved this job. I wrote articles online. And I was able to take care of my daughter at the same time, although it wasn't easy. It's hard to take care of a toddler and work at home at the same time. So after he tried to have me locked up twice and they let me out because I was lucid, he left me in the house that he forced us to move into, taking our daughter. I had begged him not to buy this house because it was the height of the housing bubble, and the payment for this house was 3 times what we were paying in rent. This was 2005 when he had us move into the house. I just wanted to move out of the neighborhood into an apartment until the housing market burst, because I knew it would, it was so overinflated at the time. So 2 weeks after he left, my pain started. It was and still is traumatic, especially given its location. It feels like stabbing pain in my crotch, or like I'm being electrocuted in that area. Also during this time, I began to feel fear at the sound of lawnmowers and weed eaters. Could this have had something to do with the trauma from that surgery in 2004? He said he'd leave one of our 2 cars with me so I could get another job. But he took both of them anyway, and being in this kind of constant pain made it difficult for me to walk, much less go find a job, and then he blamed me for not being able to go find a job. He came busting into the house one morning at about 3:30, saying he had a dream that I was selling the tools he left there. Given what he did to me in my condition, I really didn't have a choice. He tried to smash some of my things, and I tried to stop him by getting in between him and the things he was trying to smash. At this point, he grabbed me and threw me on the floor. This happened a total of 3 times, and on the 3rd time, I hit the chair on my way down to the floor. Then he grabbed my cell phone, ran out the door, stood against the door so I couldn't get out, and called the cops on me for domestic violence. The man is literally twice my size, and he does have a record of domestic violence with an ex-girlfriend. I have no record of domestic violence, except for what he tried to accuse me of. Not long after that event, the power went off, then the water, and finally garbage service. The house went into foreclosure. I was stuck in horrible, traumatic pain in the worst heat, which was an additional psychological trauma. I washed my hair in rainwater that I collected in storage bins outside, and I cooked food on a gutted toaster oven, inside which I put fire, and on top of which I put the pan with the food that I was cooking. When winter came, and it did get to freezing at some points, I would have as many candles lit as I could to keep the room a bit less cold. At one point, a police helicopter flew around the house at about 2:30 a.m. for around a half an hour, with its spotlight shining in the windows. I found the middle point of the house and crouched down there in fear. What's odd about this is the fact that no cop car showed up during this time, which tells me it was done just to traumatize me. I mean, with all that attention on one house, you'd think a cop car would have showed up at the house. Even though I told him I would never take my daughter away from him because I grew up without a father figure and know how important it is to a little girl, he began court proceedings to get custody of our daughter. At the preliminary hearing, I was present, and so was about 10 members of his family, and I was told it was only temporary custody. By the way, his family was not allowed to testify. It wasn't that kind of a hearing. They just showed up to make me look bad. Not long after this hearing, he put a lock on the mailbox and used some sort of saw to cut a slit into it, allowing the Postal Service to deliver mail, but keeping me from being able to retrieve it. When he went for full custody, I never received the notice because I wasn't able to retrieve the mail. By this time, I had sold my only camera because I needed some money to survive, and so I was unable to get proof of what he did to the mailbox. So I never knew about that second court date, and consequently, I wasn't there, so he was awarded full custody of our daughter. Eventually, I was able to move out of that house into an apartment with a roommate. At that time, my father was helping me, which he's unable to do now, and so now I have absolutely no resources. This is when I began to experience profound fear that something terrible was going to happen to me. This was in 2010, also the same year that I had a flashback of what happened during the cervical dysplasia procedure in 2004. My ex eventually talked me into moving into his new place. He said he would buy me a car, but I did it because I wanted to be with my daughter, to let her know that I loved her in case something happens to me. So somehow give her some values from her mommy and some emotional support. She made straight A's last quarter, by the way. He never did get the car, but this is what he did get. This is an Akai MPK49 professional MIDI keyboard, a Roland GR55 guitar synth. Those were new, by the way. This is a used Fender Squier Strat with a Roland pickup on it. The pickup is new. And he also got the propeller heads Reason 6 software. And none of these things are very cheap, although the Fender was used, so it was cheaper than new. My mother died. This is the clincher. Okay, this is why I think this is happening to me, although I can't be sure. I used to think that I was just sold into it through adoption to be a part of some nasty experiment. But given this next bit of information, I have to wonder. My mother died in 2009, after which point my brother told me that she was involved in a class action lawsuit against the tobacco companies. But he didn't say he knew which companies were involved. Or he didn't say which companies were involved. He said he didn't know. The lawsuit was won, and there were billions of dollars awarded to millions of families. Given the conditions I was living under, I had to give my brother executorship of my mother's estate. Later, I would call my brother, and he'd answer the phone by saying, "You won't live," just like that. I asked him, "What? What did you say?" He said, "I didn't say anything." I didn't know. I trusted him. I was adopted. He wasn't. I never thought he would do something like that. So, I'm stuck wondering, is it something that's been going on my whole life, or was the way that I was brought up just a bad mistake with the neglect and the verbal abuse and, the various traumas that happened as I was growing up? Was that just a mistake, and this is all because of this lawsuit? Is that what it is? Is it possible that they all knew in 2004 that my mother was going to get this money? Well, it's funny that she died in 2009. I don't know if the flashback's real, but it does seem kind of odd that I had this pain come out in 2008. So I don't know if I'm a non-consensual human experimentee, but given the fact that I found these implants, that kind of makes me that. But I find myself in a position of being called a so-called targeted individual, possibly to silence me, whereby people are using directed conversation, stalking by proxy, abuse by proxy, and a number of other things possibly involving the implants, which are in each ear, to make me look crazy. And it's called gaslighting. And it's the word gaslighting is taken from a movie called Gaslight, where a woman who is an heiress, is being made to think she's crazy, where they're able to mess with the lights to make her think she's crazy, so they can have her committed. She won't have access to her own money. This is what kind of world I found myself living in, and I find it disgusting, immoral, and sick, really. Because if I were to get that money, this is the sad part, I would share. I would have no problem sharing. You know, in 2007, I was starting to think very positively, and I started to see the beauty in every person, and it seems like that's being used against me now. I started to trust too much, and they took advantage of it. So, one main tactic that people who do this stalking by proxy, abuse by proxy thing, and take a look at a website called almosttuesday.wordpress.com, because I see a lot of my story when I read the stuff in that particular website about abuse by proxy. Okay, one main tactic that they use is to blame the victim for a no-win situation, for reacting to the no-win situation. And this is a prime example of the whole blame the victim mentality that seems to be proliferating in our society today. And the double bind is caused, which is a known cause of schizophrenia, and that makes schizophrenia artificially induced, at least in my case, especially if they're using implants. And I find it interesting that when I went to doctors for this, they called me a liar. So are they getting paid? How many people are getting paid to do this kind of stuff? Or are they just waiting for the award after they get me locked up? So the reason why I made this video is for anybody out there to know what happened to me if I suddenly disappear and stop posting videos or comments on other people's videos. Keep in touch, because you'll know that if something happened to me, that they did something. Because I'm not suicidal, I'm nonviolent, I'm not even breaking any laws. So, you know, I'm kind of tired of being demonized. I'm tired of hearing the abusive words, you know, the muttering under their breath. I'm tired of being lied about, even to my face. And I'm hoping that maybe someday I'll find an honorable attorney who will take my case pro bono, because I do stand to inherit $2.5 million, unless my brother was lying. And by the way, my ex's, one of my ex's family members said that he thought I was lying. Thought I was lying about this lawsuit. I know what my brother told me, so if anybody's lying, it's my brother. Alright, so, you know, take care out there. For you who consider yourself targeted individuals, hang in there and just try to survive. I know it's hard. Hopefully something will happen to change. It does seem like we're living in a dog-eat-dog world. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for those of you who are going through this. It's a terrible way to live in fear. And not only have they stolen the life that I was meant to have, but they're also stealing a good mother from my daughter, because my daughter deserves to have a mother who's fully present, and because I'm being gaslighted, it's very difficult to be fully present with my daughter, although I'm doing the best I can. So I am grateful for finding the implants, because they're right there. You can't avoid it. Anybody who was to meet me in person would be able to feel them on both sides of the cartilage to know they go all the way through. So I know they're not natural growths there. All right. And I feel energy coming through them. I feel warm sensations coming through them. So I know they're not natural. I know that somebody's using them to mess my head up even more. And after what I've been through, it's no wonder that I wouldn't trust this man. But, you know, one time he was kind of drunk and just joking around. He threw a package of crackers at my daughter. And so I started filming him. And when he found out that I had these two phones, he took the cameras away and doesn't understand why, or says he doesn't understand why I don't trust him. Well, after what happened to me in 2008, after the things he did and the dirty tricks he played with the mailbox, it's no wonder, right? All right, so pray for me, please, and I'll pray for you guys, and try to keep in touch. And if I disappear, you know why. Take care.